Today, we are diving deep into the shadows of the British state, and our guide is the incredible work of investigative journalist Ian Cobain in his book, The History Thieves. Now, Cobain is a huge deal in this world. He's one of the key figures who spent his career scrutinizing the secret state, and his work actually helped uncover these massive hidden government archives. So this book, it tells the long, pretty startling story of how secrecy has shaped an entire nation. Let's dive in.
So picture this. It's a summer morning in 2013, and you're in the basement of the Guardian newspaper. Intelligence officials are there, and they've brought power tools, angle grinders, and something called a degausser. Their job, to physically smash and wipe computer hard drives. These drives held the documents leaked by Edward Snowden, the ones that blew the lid on the massive scale of global surveillance. It was almost theatrical. A bit pointless, really, since copies were already out there. But the message? Oh, the message was crystal clear. We, the state, control what you get to know. But here's the thing. That whole scene in the basement, with the sparks flying, it wasn't some crazy one-off reaction to a 21st century problem. As Cobain's book shows, it was actually just the latest chapter in a story that's centuries old. It's the modern face of a deep-rooted culture of secrecy. So to really get what that moment with the angle grinder was all about, we've got to rewind. We have to see how the machinery of the secret state was built, piece by tiny piece.
All right, so let's jump back to the 19th century. This is where we find the real origins of the official secret. I mean, this is long before MI5 or GCHQ were even a twinkle in someone's eye. The British state was already figuring out how to control information. And the key thing to understand, as we're about to see, is that this wasn't really about catching spies. It was about protecting the government from its own embarrassing screw-ups.
This timeline really lays it all out, doesn't it? It all kicks off in 1844, when the government gets busted reading an Italian exile's private mail. The public goes absolutely wild. So what happens? Well, the first Official Secrets Act in 1889, it wasn't aimed at foreign agents. Nope. It was designed to stop government clerks from leaking documents that made their bosses look bad. Then you get this massive national panic, whipped up by a best-selling thriller about a German invasion, and bam, that creates the perfect storm for the 1911 Act, the super powerful one that's still on the books today.
So the real driver here wasn't national security, it was damage control. And this quote is just a perfect example. In the 1870s, a low-level clerk leaks a secret treaty. When he's called out on it in Parliament, the Foreign Secretary, Lord Salisbury, just stands up and, well, lies, just flat out denies it. And that incident really lit a fire under the government. They decided they needed a law with some serious teeth, not just for spies, but to stop their own people from airing their dirty laundry. And the excuse they used to pass that super powerful law? A spy panic that, when you look back, is almost comical. Seriously. The Official Secret Committee was hearing evidence about German barbers wearing wigs as disguises and foreign missionaries snapping pictures of military forts. But the truth? The reality was Germany didn't even have a proper spy network in Britain back then. But hey, the panic was useful, right? It let the government push through a law that gave it incredible power to control information. Okay, so the state now has its laws, built on a shaky foundation of panic and political convenience. Let's look at what happened next. We're moving into the 20th century now, and we're going to see how this culture of secrecy wasn't just about protecting politicians. It was used to literally hide wars, cover up atrocities, and actively rewrite the history of an entire empire. It sounds like a crazy question, doesn't it? I mean, in a democracy, how could you possibly hide an entire war? And yet, as Ian Cobain's research proves, the British state got incredibly good at it. For a huge chunk of the 20th century, Britain was pretty much always at war somewhere, but a lot of these conflicts have been completely wiped from public memory. Just listen to this list. The scale is absolutely staggering. Right after World War II ends in 1945, British troops are in Vietnam, giving weapons back to surrendered Japanese soldiers to fight Vietnamese freedom fighters. In Indonesia, they fight the Battle of Surabaya, where as many as 15,000 people died. A whole 4-year war in Borneo was kept quiet by telling newspaper editors not to report on it. And get this, for over a decade, Britain fought a secret war in Oman with SAS troops and a bombing campaign that was heavier than the Nazi raid on Coventry. And almost nobody back home knew a thing about it. And the secrecy wasn't just about battles. It was about the paperwork, too. As the British Empire started to crumble, a top-secret program called Operation Legacy was put into action. The goal was simple: go through all the colonial files and either destroy them or secretly fly them back to Britain. Anything to stop the new governments from seeing documents that might embarrass the UK.
This was a conscious, calculated effort to steal history, to make sure the official story of a gentle, benign empire was the only one left. This quote, wow, it just sums up the whole mindset, doesn't it? If we are going to sin, we must sin quietly. It comes from a secret memo written by the Attorney General of Kenya. He was giving advice to the governor on how to legally cover up the horrific torture of prisoners during the Mau Mau uprising. The goal wasn't to stop the sinning, it was to make sure there was no paper trail. That's the cold, hard logic at the heart of Operation Legacy. So how'd they do it? How'd they pull off this giant historical heist? Well, they used a very clever and pretty cynical two-file system. The legacy files, those were the clean ones. They had all the routine stuff, carefully weeded of anything sensitive, and they were handed over to the new governments. But then there was a second, parallel set of files, the DG files. These were for UK eyes only, and they had the real story, details on torture, intelligence sources, political dirty tricks. These were the files that were either burned on the spot or secretly flown back to the UK, where they were hidden away for decades. So this deep-seated desire to control the record, to sin quietly, it never went away. It just got a massive upgrade. It found a powerful new best friend, technology. In this next section, we're going to see how that old ambition, to know everything and control the story, found its ultimate form in the all-seeing digital eye. You know, you can draw a perfectly straight line from the famous code breakers at Bletchley Park during World War II right to today's GCHQ. Back at Bletchley, the target was very specific, enemy radio messages. And the big secret was that Bletchley even existed. Today, the ambition of its successor, GCHQ, is way bigger, to capture all global communications. Their phrase for it is mastering the internet. The old wartime alliance with the US has grown into the Five Eyes global network. The tools are infinitely more powerful, but the impulse, it's exactly the same. And how much does it cost to master the internet? Well, the initial 3-year budget for GCHQ's program to basically tap into the fiber optic cables that carry all our data was £1 billion. That's secrecy on an absolutely industrial scale, all funded by you, the taxpayer. And what happens to all that data? All the emails, phone calls, and searches hoovered up from the internet? The Snowden files revealed that the American NSA's code name for the massive database where they store it all is black hole. I mean, you couldn't make up a more perfect or more ominous name, could you? Information goes in, but it sure doesn't come out. Which brings us right to the fundamental clash at the very heart of Cobain's book. Democracy versus secrecy. The state's power to hide things has grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. So what happens when that deep-seated need for secrecy crashes head-on into the basic ideas of a democracy? You know, things like transparency and the rule of law. This is just an incredible statement from Britain's most senior judge. He called a specific power in the UK's Freedom of Information Act a constitutional aberration. What he was talking about was the power of a single government minister to veto a court's decision. In this case, it was used to stop the public from seeing letters Prince Charles had written to government officials. Think about that. Even when judges say information should be released, a politician can just step in and say, nope. And the reach of all this secrecy is just spreading. Secret court hearings, which were originally meant for, terrorism and big national security cases, are now being used in family courts. This means a court can literally take children away from their parents based on secret intelligence from MI5, evidence that the family and their own lawyers are not even allowed to see, let alone challenge. It's a huge step away from the whole principle of open and fair justice. And so we end up right where we have to. As Ian Cobain's incredible work demonstrates, this powerful impulse for secrecy in the British state started out as a way to avoid political embarrassment. It was used to erase inconvenient wars and the dark side of empire, and now it's found its most powerful expression in the digital age. From destroying old paper files to building digital black holes, the ambition remains the same. And it leaves us with the oldest and probably the most important question you can ask in any democracy. In a state that guards its secrets this fiercely, who is left to watch the watchers?